You guys, I don't know if anyone has ever arranged and hosted their own intervention before, but that might be what's happening here. I just counted, and there are 60 items of clothing on this rack. And that is not even everything that I made this year. I don't know if you can tell, but this clothing rack is bowing. There's a dip in the middle because of all of the weight that it is carrying. And I'm afraid that it's about to collapse in on itself, like one of those desserts where you pour like hot chocolate over like a thin crust of chocolate and it just sort of like gently implodes into like this delicious dessert. But I fear that this implosion would not be nearly as nice. So yeah, there are 60 items of clothing on this rack. That does not include everything that I knitted, and it also does not include my dresses. I did a very quick count, and I believe that there are about 30 dresses that I made this year, which means that I made about 90 pieces of clothing this year. I know that I posted a video a few months ago where I went through all of my summer sewing projects, and I made some jokes about sewing being my mental illness. But realizing how much I actually did sew this year was actually hitting rock bottom. Look, I'm certainly not saying that I don't have anyone in my life who cares about my mental health, but y'all need to check in on me more. This clothing rack is a cry for help. 2026 resolution, touch grass. There were some extenuating circumstances. I was unemployed for a portion of this year. And I know people say that trying to find a job is like a full-time job, which is kind of true, but also, as I've learned, there are only so many applications you can fill out and rejection emails you can handle in a day. So I did have more time to sew this year than I have ever had before, and likely will ever have again. All of that to say, like, really and truly, I don't mean this to be like inspirational or aspirational, this is how much you should be sewing, and I truly don't want anyone to compare themselves or anything like that. Like I said, this is absurd even for me. It was just kind of a weird year, and so I ended up having more time on my hands. And by the way, I have no idea what I was wearing before this year, because this did clear out my closet, and I don't think that I've gotten rid of many clothes this year, so I truly don't know what I was wearing, and that's a little bit scary to me too. Before I realized the full magnitude of everything that I made, I did plan to go over everything that I sewed this past year all in one video. I don't think that's gonna happen anymore. I think this is gonna be a two-parter. Future Allie, put in here if I end up doing something differently. Hey, Future Allie here. Just popping in to let you know that I was delusional, and this will be a trilogy. Like Back to the Future, except instead of fixing past mistakes in each new installment, I'll just be sharing them on the internet for your entertainment. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you actually want to see everything I made in 2025. My gosh, I'm already so intimidated. I've kind of been procrastinating on this because I know I'm not going to be able to speak for like a month after I'm done with all of this. So I'm going to try to go through this kind of quickly. I say I'm going to try to go through it quickly. Unfortunately, I am a yapper. Keeping it short is advice that I have gotten a lot and rarely follow unless we're talking about skirt length. So we'll see. So you saw the title, you know basically what this is. I'm going to show you what I made. I'm probably going to yap a little bit about the process of making it, the final product. I'm also going to expose any and all mistakes that I made. So that'll be humbling. But you know, I think it's important. I want to be honest. So yeah, that's the plan. That is why we are assembled here today. I'm also low-key expecting loved ones to break in with letters about how I'm hurting myself and them. Sorry. Anyway, that's the plan. Welcome to my multiverse of madness. It's nice to have you here. And let's get into it. All right, we are going to start with matching sets. I will say matching sets are a good portion of the reason why there is so much clothing on this rack. Honestly, I think I'd only made like a handful of matching sets before this year, but 2025 really was the year of matching sets for me. I leaned into it. I loved it. Part of the reason I love dresses so much is because it makes you look so put together, but it is so low effort. You know, you're only pulling out one item of clothing. You can style it up however you want. You can dress it up, you can dress it down. And that's kind of how I feel about matching sets. They are so versatile. If you wear the two pieces together, you instantly have a very pulled together kind of look. And you can also wear them separately. So mix and match as you please. You get so much mileage out of a matching set. So that is one thing that I very much enjoyed sewing this year that I think I'm probably going to take into 2026. Anyway, starting off very strong with truly one of my favorite things that I sewed this year. I wore both pieces of this set quite a bit. So this is the Sable set by Erin Ford. I made this out of a vintage bed sheet. I think it was from the 80s, and I love the bright primary colors in it so much. I think that it's so bright and colorful, but still has enough white space that it looks very clean and not too busy, you know? And it also has some of my favorite colors in it. I love a good pop of red. I love yellow, which you certainly know if you saw my summer sewing projects video, almost everything in it was yellow. I love this bright blue and bright green. I feel like it's very easy to style with other things and to play up the colors in it. And so it's really fun to wear them together or apart. It's just a great set. I also made a plain white version of this tiered skirt in my Sewing Summer Essentials video. And it's just kind of a good basic skirt. It has pockets, it's easy, it's functional, it can be worn and styled with so many things. I do regret not making the top more this year because I think there's a very simple top that can go with a lot of things. And again, is very easy to style up for a night out or style down for like a trip to the farmer's market. Overall, absolutely love this set. And I want to make more of this in 2026. Next up is kind of the bane of my existence. So this is a set that I made, obviously intending them to be worn together. However, unfortunately, when I wear them together, I do think that it looks like pajamas, and I cannot get that image out of my head. And I showed it in my summer sewing projects video, and some people were very sweet about it, but pretty much I think everyone agreed that they do look like pajamas paired together. And I don't know, I think it's partially the floral pattern, the looseness of the top, the ruffles at the bottom of the shorts. I don't know, but unfortunately, I don't think that they ended up looking great together. But I do love the pieces individually, and I have worn them both with other things. I think that it looks much better and appropriate styled that way. The top is the Flora top by Sewing Amore, and I think that this is such a great, simple, easy, breezy top, especially great for summer because it's kind of loose. There's a lot of ventilation, so you're not going to get too hot wearing it. But it also just looks very cute and pulled together. And the shorts are the Sorel shorts by Vicky Sews, and this is honestly one of my favorite patterns. One, it just fits very well, which is always nice when you find a pattern where you don't have to make a lot of adjustments. But also, I think that it's kind of cute and unique with the little scalloped edge and the ruffles on the bottom. Again, not great together, but great individually, and that should count for something. Next up is another little matching skirt set that I made. And honestly, I think this is one of my most unique sets that I've made. I love how it looks together. Together, they kind of remind me of a little bit of like a ballerina outfit. I've also kind of thought about wearing these together as like a Rapunzel Disney bound. I feel like if I did a braid and added some flowers in my hair and maybe, I don't know, like a frying pan necklace or a little chameleon on my shoulder or something, I actually think this would be pretty cute to wear to Disney as kind of a Rapunzel homage. But let me know what you think. But the top is the Rothwell top by Stitch Witch Patterns. And sorry, I always forget to say this, but links to all of the sewing patterns will be in the video description below. But I love the Rothwell top so much. And honestly, it is a pattern that I would recommend for sort of an adventurous beginner. It ties in the back, which one is very cute. As someone who has a soft spot for the coquette aesthetic, I love all of the little bows on this top. But also the fact that it ties in the back does make fit a little bit easier. You don't have to be super precise with it. And you don't have to worry about like installing a zipper or doing buttonholes or anything like that. So I typically recommend pieces that either have like elastics or ties for beginners because I just think that that's a little bit easier. And then the skirt is a hacked version of the Flirt skirt by Gracie Steele. Honestly, I didn't do much. I just kind of shortened the skirt and then added a little bit of a longer skirt. But this is where I am going to own up to my first mistake because I'm not even sure how I did this. But somehow I sewed the wrong sides together when I sewed the bottom tier. So technically there is a raw exposed seam there, but no one notices. So I haven't had to wash it yet. But before I do, honestly, it is a polyester. So I'll probably just burn the edges. Because polyester is plastic, you often can just sort of melt the edges of a seam if you don't want to do like a zigzag or finishing stitch on them. And so I'm probably going to do that so that you don't see the finishing stitch on the outside because I don't really feel like going in and seam ripping and changing it. And I did not realize that I had messed it up until too late. Next up is one of the most beautiful outfits I truly think that I've ever created. I am telling you, I felt like an ethereal fairy wearing this. There are issues, which I will fess up to. This set together really reminded me of some Barbie dress that I have tried so hard to find. I don't know if it was like a Barbie coloring book that we used to have, and maybe I just like colored it in so it kind of resembled this set together, or what exactly it was, but I do feel like a Barbie fairy princess every time I put it on, and I love it so much. So I made this to be my Easter outfit this past year. I was up all night the night before because I think I only started it like a day or two before Easter, which is not what you should do. That might be part of the reason too why I have so much clothing, is because I will have a specific event that I want to sew outfits for, and I'll just stay up the night before and churn things out in a day, basically. I think I did sew this full top in the night. So this is the Riviera corset by Maiden Mary Patterns. And I love this so, so much. I do wear this top quite a bit, actually. Again, I think that it has just a little bit of an ethereal fairy look and just adds a touch of that to any outfit that I wear it with. I love the lace up back. I love kind of the corset design of it. And this bottom is the Daphne skirt by Friedleys, which I love so much. It is so full and billowy and fun. Unfortunately, I have not worn it much because it's not something you can really dress down. Like, I can't exactly wear this with a t-shirt and go to the grocery store. You know, it is kind of a statement piece. And unfortunately, I just don't live a life where I need that many big, fancy skirts too often. In an alternate universe where I'm a princess, I probably do, but not in this life. And I will own up, there are a couple of things wrong here because, like I said, I did make this in a hurry, and I don't recommend that. So first, and most obviously, the top is completely unfinished. I need to add the waistband in. Part of the reason I haven't is because, like I said, I really only can wear it with this top. It just doesn't go with much else, and the top does cover the top of the skirt. So I haven't felt too much pressure to actually finish the top of the skirt. Plus, like I said, I don't really have many places or times where I can wear it. So, you know, it hasn't really gotten worn much. It certainly hasn't needed a washing. So it's fine. I will add in the waistband for sure. You can see where I sewed on the layers. That is also unfinished, and that does need to be finished as well. You can also see sort of like a random seam going down parts of it. Kind of. You can't really see it unless you're looking for it. But I had to sew 2 sheets together in order to get all of these voluminous layers. So that is something to be aware of. Probably not coming as a surprise, but this skirt does require a lot of fabric. And I don't know exactly how it would work if you were just buying fabric from a store, but as someone who used the thrifted bed sheets and typically does use thrifted bed sheets, I needed more than one in order to make this, which ended up being fine, but just something to be aware of. But yeah, I think this wins the award for most fairy-like of all of my outfits. And that's the dream. If your me-made wardrobe isn't sparking joy in your inner child, then what are we doing all of this for, you know? Okay, so now that I have this outfit on, I feel like there are 2 things I need to point out. One, doesn't this look like an outfit that Glinda would wear? Ari, if you want to borrow it for Wicked Part 3, just hit me up, girl. The second thing is a mistake that I forgot about. So I have pretty narrow shoulders, and the straps ended up being a little too long for me, so I actually safety pinned them to make them shorter. That's just going to be our little secret, okay? This is one of my favorite patterns that just came out this year. I was actually one of the pattern testers for it, and I loved it. I made it twice, and I will be making it more in 2026. I can tell you that. I love this pattern so much. This is the Farmer's Market set by Genuinely M Patterns. You can buy this either as the Farmer's Market set, or if you just want the pieces individually, this is the heirloom skirt and the cherie top. Personally, I love them, and I do recommend them together. And I talked about this in the Summer Sewing Projects video, but I do think that this is one of those patterns that can change so dramatically depending on the pattern you use. So for example, I think that this palm version is very beachy and very casually elegant for a little family vacation. Whereas this red version, I've actually worn on a few date nights, and it makes me feel so sexy. I've gotten quite a few compliments on them. And I think you could also make it in like a fruit print or a plaid or something to have a little bit more of a casual one. But again, just makes you look so put together and chic. that you could wear, down to the farmer's market. I keep using that as an example. To me, that's just like the definition of casual but still fun. Okay, this set was a little bit of a wild card. It's really not in colors that I'm typically drawn to. I will say I am a believer in color analysis, and I've never had mine professionally done. I would love to someday, but I am pretty confident that I'm a light spring. I hope so. And honestly, at the end of the day, I don't know if I care that much. The light spring color palette are the colors that I am most drawn to. I love kind of the pastel, like very bright, sort of like butter yellows, a little warmer toned, things like that. This little drabber than I typically go. This feels like a little bit like female bird plumage, not really trying to attract too much attention. But I was very drawn to the pattern in the fabric itself. I think the circles and squares are just kind of sort of a cool mod-ish sort of look. And I did knit a sweater that's in a red that's kind of in the same shade. And so I thought it would be nice to have like a skirt that I could wear with that sweater. So in my head, I wanted to do sort of like a 60s mod kind of looking set. I will say, I think it kind of looks like Taylor Swift's 1989 era outfits. You know what I mean? With like the skirt and kind of the coordinating top. Something about these two pieces together makes me think of that. I don't know, but surprisingly, I do like it. So the skirt, I think, is just kind of a basic A-line pattern that I got from Stitch Witch Patterns. And the top is the Aster top by True Bias. And I have had the Aster top for a while. There's also a dress version. You can make either a top or a dress. I've been wanting to make the top for a while and just had never gotten around to it. Kind of interestingly, not only is it a fabric that I wouldn't typically be drawn to, but the Aster top isn't the style top that I'm usually too drawn to either. I typically prefer more fitted clothing as opposed to looser clothing. And the Aster top is specifically designed to be a little bit looser. So I wasn't quite sure how I would like how it looked. So using a fabric that I wasn't like crazy in love with kind of alleviated my fears, because I do have a very bad habit of not using my favorite fabrics and just constantly being scared that I'm going to ruin them. So obviously I liked the fabric enough to buy it. And by the way, I think this is actually like some upholstery fabric or something. I bought it at Goodwill and it is kind of thick and stiff and has a very loose weave. I had to be kind of careful so that the edges didn't fray too much while I was making the outfit. But pairing a sewing pattern that I wasn't sure about with a fabric that I wasn't crazy in love with kind of helped alleviate my fears and finally use the pattern. And honestly, I do like how it looks. I do think that I'll probably make it again. And next time I make it, I think that I might bring it in at the sides a little bit toward the waist just to give it a little more shape. Obviously, I understand it is meant to be loose. And so I'm not trying to make it fitted exactly, but I just want it to sort of follow my body shape a little bit better, if that makes sense. But I think that it's very cute. I love the little button up back. As you know, if you've watched my channel, I hate making buttonholes. They scare me to death. And I was especially scared with this fabric because, like I said, it is stiff and kind of thick. And so I was worried about opening up the buttonholes and all of that sort of stuff. But honestly, didn't really end up being an issue. It went, honestly, better than a lot of buttonholes that I've made have. No regrets. I don't think this is like my favorite set, but I'm glad that I made it. I'm glad that I stepped outside of my comfort zone a little bit. And yeah, I absolutely will wear it, especially I think it would be super cute in the fall. I did originally plan to make sort of a vest top, which I low-key regret because I think that would be cute to wear them together and style with, maybe like a long sleeve top underneath. But you know what? You live, you learn. Everything is a learning experience. So we're all good. Okay, I know that we have barely even scratched the surface of this mound of fabric and clothing here. And I feel like I've already said so many times, oh my gosh, I love this. This is one of my favorite, blah, 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 blah. But truly, this set is one of my favorite things that I have ever made. And sorry, I know that it doesn't look good on the hanger, so I'll throw up some footage of me actually wearing it. This is so stinking cute. I made this out of a vintage bed sheet that I had found. And it was one of those where I hesitated to use it because I was so scared of ruining it. I love the very sort of 70s style pattern with the florals and the colors. And so I was very, very happy when I found No Me 2114 by Lindsay over at the Stitch Fits. I think that this is such a perfect kind of vintage inspired set that still feels very modern and it girl to me. Maybe it's just my algorithm. I never truly know what's trendy or not. but I have been seeing a lot of long vests lately. I do have a bit of a bone to pick with like McCall's Simplicity Creative Group. So I ended up saying a lot more, but just to summarize, in my personal experience, the McCall's Simplicity Know Me sizing charts aren't very reliable. According to them, I'm a bigger size than I typically would be, and then, surprise, surprise, when I make that size, the piece I just made is too big for me. So I never really know what size I should be making, and I find that extremely frustrating. I don't know if anyone else has that problem, but I actually tend to avoid making big four patterns for that reason. All of that to say, I think that I did make this in a 6 because I made a mock-up that I'll show you in a second that was too big for me. And so I do think that I made this in the smallest size they offer. And aside from my fear of buttonholes, part of what I don't like about a lot of garments that have button closures is the fact that adding the buttons is typically one of the last steps. And so obviously you can try it on throughout the process and have kind of an idea of how it fits, but you don't really know until you add the buttons, which is typically the last step. And so I sewed this whole vest. I tried it on and it was still like too big for me at the chest. So exposing myself here, but I ended up just kind of like folding over some of the fabric and sewing it down kind of underneath the armhole. So you can't really see it. But yeah, I did have to do a little bit of improv to make it fit the way that I wanted it to, which like obviously isn't ideal, but it's not really that big of a deal. I don't think like no one's really going to see it, but just between the two of us, there is I did have to fold it down to and sew that little triangle to make it fit correctly. Anyway, not the end of the world. I'm so afraid that this clothing rack is so precarious. I don't enjoy playing Jenga because it's too stressful to me. So this about to fall over or collapse at any second is actually my worst nightmare. But anyway, I still think that it's super cute. I still love to wear it, and I still feel super cool and fun and trendy when I wear this outfit. Next up is kind of a boho set that I made for the first beach visit of summer. Just kidding. I checked my Instagram, and this was actually the first beach trip of the year in February. I don't know what to tell you. Just Florida things. So I also made this out of a thrifted bedsheet. In fact, pretty much everything here, there's a few exceptions that I'll probably point out, but in general, you can assume everything was made out of a thrifted bedsheet or at least some material I bought from the thrift store. And so this I think was actually a bed skirt because it came with like these built-in ruffles and things like that. So I kind of just used that to make this skirt. This was self-drafted. And you can see like here, this is the original ruffling. I just kept that. There are a few sort of random seams because of how the original sheet was sewn together, but it's so full and flowy and fun. And I love wearing this as just like a little beach cover up. And then the top is the puff sleeve top by Brandy Joanne. I did make a few hacks, I guess, to this. So first of all, you're supposed to add elastic into the sleeves, hence why it's called the puff sleeve top. But I wanted it to have a little bit more of a flowy boho look, so I didn't add the elastic in. And then I also added kind of this, I don't know if waistband is the right word because it doesn't come down to my waist, but I added this elastic band at the bottom of it because this top is very, very short. Even with, this is probably like 1.5 inches elastic added, I probably would like it to be a little bit longer. And if I make this top again, I probably will add a little bit more length. But it is super cute and it's super fun and it's a very fun beachy outfit. The only issue is that I accidentally made the elastic along the neckline too small, and so it's actually very uncomfortable to wear it. But that's an easy fix. I just need to do a little bit of seam ripping and add in a little bit more elastic so that I can wear this comfortably. And I will do that because I do really love this top. I think this is such a fun, beachy boho set. And I look forward to wearing it more this summer. Okay, this next set is probably my most worn. Not only do I love these two pieces together, and is it one of my favorite colors and patterns, pattern of the fabric, I mean, but I love styling both of these pieces with other pieces of clothing as well. So this is my little red gingham short set. Fun little story. I am very competitive. I am also very bad at bowling. And so I'm not necessarily a fun person to bowl with. However, I do enjoy it. I talked about this a lot in my Sewing Fall Essentials Part 2 video because my family has a tradition every Black Friday we go bowling. And every year I lose miserably, probably my least favorite tradition. But my husband, because he loves me, even when I lose and maybe lose my temper a little bit, we went bowling for Valentine's Day this year. And I actually wore this little set. I did lose. I came very close to bowling 100 for the first time ever. Did not do it, but we survived. Anyway, I made this set out of a tablecloth that I found at the thrift store. And I do have to issue a word of caution if you are someone who enjoys thrifting materials like I do. Tablecloths, I've found, are typically not a great option. For one thing, they tend to be pretty stiff, which can be okay depending on the type of garment you want to make, but it is something to be aware of. And it also tends to have a very loose weave. So as soon as you cut it, they often unravel very quickly, in my experience. Thankfully, this one was like 100% cotton. It was a pretty tight weave, not a very stiff fabric. I think it was actually meant to be like an outdoor picnic blanket or something like that. But I saw it and I said, I am going to make as many pieces of clothing as I can out of it. And I did. You'll see more of it in part 2 of this Everything I Made in 2025 series. This I do think was one of the most functional things that I've made. So the top is the Fitted Vest by Kiana Bonolo. I've made this vest pattern quite a few times. I think that it's good if you want a vest that also functions as a top. I mean, you could layer it over clothing, but I just love how this fits. It's a pretty simple project too. I think that you could make this vest if you're an adventurous beginner. It really is just lining up seams and sewing them together. And also, Kiana is a YouTuber, so she has a full video tutorial on how to make this vest. Part of what I love about a vest is that it's so easy to hack it to look a little bit different. So I've made this vest with buttons. This one I just made little snaps so you can't necessarily see the closures. You can do ties. You can do so many things to just shake it up a little bit every time. I do have a bow on the top of this one, as you can see, but that's purely decorative. That's not really holding anything together. That was kind of a last minute addition that I loved and kept. And I think it kind of made it sort of fun for Valentine's Day, you know? And then the shorts are the Danny shorts by True Bias. And I talked about this pattern in my favorite sewing patterns video because this is a go-to pattern for me. I think that it's good to have sort of a tried and true elastic short pattern. And this one's mine. I think that it fits very well. It has pockets, which are essential. But it's a very simple project. And so if you're just getting into sewing, I think elastic shorts are a great option. Like I said, personally, I'm a huge fan of this one. And they do have another version of this short that's a little bit more of a boxer short sort of look. Like it has some buttons you can add on the front. I have not made that version yet. Maybe I will this year. Maybe I add that to my 2026 goals. But yeah, I think this is such a fun, cute, summery set. And like I said, I wear these pieces individually a lot too. I love styling these shorts with like a yellow tank top or like sort of a blush pink graphic tee. I often wear this vest with my white maxi skirt. They look so cute together, but they can also serve as such a cute, playful pop of color separately. So this was definitely one of my heavy hitters this year. Oh gosh. Okay, I talked about this. This was part of my sewing an East Coast summer wardrobe video. And I made a comment when I was making this that this fabric attracts every loose thread on my floor, like while I was cutting it out and stuff like that. Look, it has been in my dresser, it has been hanging up, and still there are loose threads all over this. I don't even know where they came from. Anyway, like I said, this was part of my sewing an East Coast summer wardrobe video, which several of these are part of videos, so I'll have those linked down below if you want to go check them out. But this is the Flora top, which you may recall. This is also the Flora top. And this is a McCall's. I want to say McCall's 9290. And like I said, the floral version looks like pajamas. I've accepted that. This, it probably looks a little bit pajama-y, but this, I think the red and the lack of ruffles makes it look a lot more like just a cute summer set. Personally, I have this red polka dot bandana that I love to style it with, along with like a big basket weave purse. And to me, it just looks very Italian summer aesthetic. I think that it looks so cute, so cool. At its essence, it is just a shirt and shorts. It is a very simple outfit, but it makes me feel so chic and put together and cute. And I absolutely love this set. I've gotten a lot of wear out of it, and I plan to get a lot more. And that's all I have to say, I guess. This next set makes me feel like Marilyn Monroe. Like, I feel like such a vintage bombshell when I wear these two pieces together. And I think part of it is the light pink polka dot fabric. It just feels very classic and very feminine, but also so fun. I'll probably talk about this later because I sewed a lot of polka dots this year, but I love the polka dot pattern. I think that it's so classic, but still has a very playful energy to it. This is also a hacked version of the Flirt skirt by Gracie Steele. However, this was the second time I made it, so there's no exposed raw seams in this one. I did make this one correctly. I also just loved a tier skirt this year. I feel like part of that was probably the Pop Flex influence. I love watching the videos of Cassie designing her outfits, and she loves a good flowy tier. And then the halter top, I bought it off of an Etsy store. I can never remember, but like I said, the link will be below. But this is an authentic 70s halter top pattern. It's also incredibly simple. If you are a beginner, I highly recommend this. It's literally sewing two pieces of fabric together. And then I added a lining, but I don't think that the pattern even calls for that. I think it just has you like fold down the edges and hem. But it is incredibly simple. It is so cute. I cannot tell you. I love reaching for this. And I wanted to make a lot more of them this year. I didn't get around to it. Clearly, I was busy obsessively making other things. But I do want to make this pattern again in 2026. And the pattern also comes with two other styles. So I will be making more of these halter tops for sure. And I'm very much looking forward to it. I've worn both of these separately, but together, oh, I feel so stinking cute. I also wore this outfit in my video where I made a bathrobe for my mom. I'm gonna link that. You should check it out. Not many people did. I'm not offended, but yeah, I'd appreciate it if you went and watched it. If you watched my summer sewing projects video, you might recognize this little number. This is what I wore while I was talking during the video. Technically, I think this outfit should have been part of that video, actually. For our anniversary this past year, which is at the end of May, we took a little trip down to Miami. I was making this for that trip. I didn't quite finish it in time, which means I probably finished it in June, which would make it a summer sewing project. Oopsies, missed this one. So let's talk about it now. I envisioned this as kind of the perfect brunch outfit. And honestly, I think I nailed it. I love the bright bubblegum pink. I think that it's very feminine and very fun. I love bright colors. I just do. This set makes me feel like a summer sunset. You know, when you're watching the sun go down over the ocean and the sky is just alight with yellows and oranges and bright pinks. That's what this feels like I'm wearing a cotton candy colored cloud. By the way, that was a tongue twister, and I'm really impressed that I got that out. So this is the Paula top by Sycamore Road Patterns. This is the first and only time I've made it, but I do want to make it more because I think that it is such an adorable top. I really love how it ties. I think that it's just so cute and chic for a little brunch look. You know, it's a little bit cropped, so it still looks kind of modern and fun. And the skirt is the Saturday skirt, part of the Saturday skirt set by Friday Pattern Company. And I gotta say, I love this skirt. I've made it a few times. I also plan to make this more, but it has these beautiful pockets in the front. It has a nice elasticated waist, but I like that the elastic part is in the back. Not having an elastic in the front, I feel like makes it look a little bit more chic and upscale, but it's nice to have it in the back because then you don't have to do zippers or anything like that. Now, again, because I am confessing all of my sewing sins in this video, the elastic is actually a little bit too loose for me. I have trouble with elastic. I typically err on the side of making it too loose. I did not calculate the elastic properly. I have worn this skirt a few times, and every time I have to use a safety pin to tighten up the elastic a bit so that it actually stays at my waist. And I definitely can, and eventually I will just seam rip and take out some of the elastic. But it's just a pain because the edges have already been finished, so that's just extra work. And for some reason, you can sort of see, like, I don't know if it's kind of a loose weave fabric or what, but it's already kind of fraying. I'm just not looking forward to having to do that. And since I typically wear it with the top, which has a bow in the back, it kind of covers up the safety pin. But I mean, it's not like a huge mistake. That's part of the issue, is if it was a big mistake, then it would be like, okay, I have to fix it before I can wear it. But since I can kind of get away with it, it just becomes one of those things that I'm procrastinating on. But I will fix it eventually because I do really love this skirt and I want to be able to just wear it without any adjustments or anything like that. So one of these days, 2026 goal is to fix the skirt. Okay, and that brings us to our final matching set, which was kind of a flop, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes an idea for a sewing project just pops into your brain and you can't get it out. And you just think, what the heck? I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna make it so that it's out of my brain and out into the open, and maybe it'll turn out great, you know? And sometimes it does. I've definitely had that happen quite a bit. But you know, sometimes you put in all the effort and you make something and you're like, oof, how I pictured it in my brain is not how it turned out in real life. And unfortunately, this is an example of that. So this is also the Nomi 2114, same as the yellow floral vest and whatnot. So the skirt turned out great, I think. I actually do like the skirt. I will wear that. However, the top for this one, I want to emphasize this was the first one that I made, so I didn't know how it was going to fit or anything like that. I decided that I wanted to try doing bows in the front instead of buttons. That part I don't think was horrible. I think that I might be willing to try that again. But as I was making it, I was like, wow, I actually really like the brown side of this as well. So I'm going to make it reversible. Also not a bad idea, and I might try that again. But I will say, I don't know if it's just the leopard print because that makes it look very busy, or what exactly it is about it, but I just am not a fan of this. I don't know, maybe it's just the style doesn't really work with the bows. Maybe, like I said, it's just like the busy leopard print, but I don't think it quite works as reversible because then it has these leopard accents that I don't know if I love. And I just don't know if I like the leopard side of it either. It's kind of difficult to style. I don't know, maybe that's something that I try this upcoming year. Maybe I'll do a video where I try to style my me-made clothing that I'm not a big fan of and see if I can make it work. Because unfortunately, this is one of the very few things that I'm like, yeah, I don't like it. I have never once reached for it, and I don't know if I ever will. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments. If you agree, if you don't think it's that bad, if I'm being a little harsh on it, or if I should just style it differently. If you'd be interested in a video where I try to style my me-made fails. Again, I personally don't feel like I have too many of them, but unfortunately, I do think this is one of them. And I did definitely think about just not including this in the video, but like I said, I'm trying to be honest with you guys. So that's this set, unfortunately ending on a bit of a low note. So yeah, I was originally planning to do everything except dresses in part one, but apparently I've been talking for over an hour. So that's where we're gonna end this one. I'm gonna save bottoms, tops, and outerwear, and probably everything that I knitted for part two. And then part three will be dresses, which, as I said, I think there are about 30 dresses that I made this year. So stay tuned for that. If you are interested in seeing those videos, please subscribe. I feel like I need to go drink some electrolytes. As you can see, we have a lot more clothing to go, so we got through about half of this rack. Hopefully, I'll have part two up in just a few days, I think, and then we'll end with Return of the Jedi, aka all of the dresses that I sewed this year. I think I probably need to add like better sewing life balance to my 2026 goals. Is that a thing? Is there anyone else in the world who has ever had to talk about sewing life balance before? I feel like there isn't. I feel like I'm a pioneer, and not in a good way. Like the first alcoholic or the first person to get an STD or something like that. Like in the history books, but not very proud of it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please leave a comment. Let me know if you're looking forward to the next two parts, what was your favorite piece of clothing I showed you in this part, and if I should go into craft rehab, which probably. Anyway, that's it for now. We will continue this obsessive behavior in just a few days. I hope I see you in the next video, unless my husband has had me committed. Valid. I appreciate you being here, and I hope I see you in the next video. Bye.